Welcome to the Motley Mystic Podcast. I'm Candace Shalou. I have named this podcast and Substack the Motley Mystic because I believe that truth speaks with many, sometimes motley voices. Dogmas and doctrines have crept in to make religion into a rigid thing about belief, but as a motley mystic, I feel spirituality should be less about belief and more about that deep knowing that we are more than these bodies, more than these thoughts, and definitely far more than our beliefs or opinions. Indeed, we are all collections of motley beliefs and ideas. And if that resonates with you, then you could also be a motley mystic. Here's today's motley mystic. It's called There Is No Easy Button. The day after the election last month, my spouse Beth and I went to dinner. Beforehand, we put out an impromptu invitation to friends on Facebook to join us for a meal and commiseration. Several people showed up, and we each shared our feelings and theories about what had taken place the night before. One man, commenting on those who voted for Trump, said they just wanted it to be easy. Around the table, everyone nodded sagely. Well, I said, those of us who voted for Harris just wanted it to be easy too. There was a gasp across the table as we all realized the truth of that comment. The truth is this: I don't care who you voted for in this past election. You thought your vote would make life easier for you. We all did. We all thought our vote would give us that proverbial easy button. We'd press it and poof, our candidate is elected and does what they said they'd do, and our lives will get easier. Here's another truth for you. There is no easy button. Getting the outcomes we want from our government is never easy. How to ultimately change what needs to be changed, not just in this country, but the whole world, is not easy. In fact, the actual work we must do to make any change in the world around us is the most difficult thing any human being can ever do. And we'll get to that in a minute. But first, let's look at some other difficult truths. The truth is, this country hasn't really been a functioning democracy for decades. Poll after poll shows that the vast majority of people want our lawmakers to do some basic things, such as enact common sense gun laws, recognize the reproductive rights of women, provide affordable health care, ensure the public education of every child, take care of the climate, and keep consumers' interests in mind when passing laws. How are we doing on these issues? Well, according to a Princeton University study, public opinion has a near zero impact on U.S. law. The thing that does impact what laws get passed in this country, you guessed it, money. Indeed, that 2014 study, which analyzed more than 1,800 policy outcomes from 1981 to 2002, found that organized interest groups and the economic elite dominated the political process, while the average voter's preferences were largely ignored. That means corporations, millionaires and billionaires, and the lobbyists carry the most weight on Capitol Hill. The rich have ruled the roost in Washington for decades on both sides of the aisle. Democrats may have hidden that influence of the wealthy more elegantly than Republicans, but right now, the oligarchy's ascendance is in full view as the president-elect is naming many of them to cabinet posts and is taking advice from Elon Musk, the world's wealthiest human being. While those of us here living paycheck to paycheck say we want a government that will lower our prices, enrich our livelihoods, and protect our pocketbooks, we're seeing people ascend to power who haven't shopped for eggs and bacon in a long time, if ever. In fact, it's gotten so ridiculous, not only in the halls of government, but also within the court system, with the majority of U.S. Supreme Court justices showing who they're rooting for. I told Beth the other day that I realized no one is coming to save us, no matter which side you voted for. If you make less than $500,000 a year, neither the government nor the courts will be looking out for your best interests in the coming years. Both sides, as they have been doing for decades, will be lining their own pockets and bowing to the corporations and special interests that have bought them. We little people may get a bone tossed here or there, or they mess up somehow and we benefit, but no one is specifically looking out for the middle, lower, or working classes. We may have some progressives who squawk about our interests now and then, but they are consistently outvoted. So where does that leave those of us who have no voice and no real power to sway our federal government? It leaves us with no easy button and an opportunity. The opportunity here is the one I am committed to take moving forward, and it is that most difficult work that any human being can undertake that I mentioned earlier. This is the difficult work of going within. You see, as a longtime student of A Course in Miracles, I have read the book a couple of times, and I've read the workbook, which are daily lessons to help you put the principles of the book into practice. I mean, you heard that right. I read the workbook. But by its nature, the workbook is just that, a workbook. I didn't say I had done the workbook. If I had done the workbook since 2016, when I began studying A Course in Miracles, I think I would not be so disillusioned in this moment, because I would have realized a long time ago that nothing in the world outside of myself could ever be the source of my salvation. No government, no court, no religious or activist organization, even the most well-meaning of all those systems, cannot save any of us. There is no easy button. And this is what I'm realizing in this moment in history. Universe had to make what's happening in government so ridiculous, so obviously corrupt and cartoonish, that there could be no other conclusion for me but to turn away from it altogether as offering any safety or solace. What I had avoided by not doing the workbook was the hard and difficult work that lies ahead for any of us who realize that nothing in the outside world can be our source of safety or happiness, joy or peace, and it's not supposed to be, no matter how much our ego selves want it to be. Instead, everything we need is within us: safety, happiness, joy, peace. If we can recognize that, then we can begin the arduous journey within, putting aside the ego and its insistence that politics or religion or activism will ultimately save us and the world. That is not to say, of course, that we forsake the world around us. We have to live here, after all. We must be involved in causes that we believe in. We must be active in communities that we are drawn to. We must still stand up for the rights of those who are oppressed and work for the common good through all the systems and channels we can find. But we have to do it with the knowledge that no human-made system will save us. They can't. They're not designed to do that. They're designed to benefit those who design them. We can seek to reform them or create new systems, but none of them will be perfect and none of them will save us. Only going within and changing our inner world will save any of us, and if enough of us undertake this difficult work of going within, that is ultimately what will save all of us. And this is the power structure, the only power structure that works. Jesus spoke of a remnant who will save the world. That remnant understands that there is no us and them. There is only some of us for all of us. The some of us are those who are dedicated to doing the hard work of changing the world within ourselves from one of competition, selfishness, and hatred into a world of cooperation, generosity, and love. This is the only world we can change. And the good news is that whatever world we build on the inside is the world we project to the outside. And that is what ultimately changes that outside world. Only cooperative, generous, and loving people can create a cooperative, generous, and loving world. Create that world within, and that will be all you see without. I have seen this happen on a small scale in my own life. I spent most of my life, from my teenage years into my 40s, being an angry, selfish, and unkind human being. My parents' divorce when I was 9 years old set up this pattern, and over the years, it destroyed a lot of my relationships and led me to become so depressed I was desperate for a change. My seeking led me to Wayne Dyer, who I call my gateway guru, and then on to other mystics and metaphysical teachings through Buddhism and Sufism, right on through to A Course in Miracles. All of these teachers and teachings showed me how to work on changing the world within, ridding myself of the angry ego that I had installed as my dictator all those years. It was a revolution rooted in love, and while I still battle anger demons from time to time, my inner world is far more peaceful than it ever has been. What happened in those years outside of myself is where the true miracle occurred, though. My angry, cynical friends began to drop away, and they were replaced by caring, kind, and generous people. The world I had once seen as plotting my destruction or always a source of angry reactions simply melted away. It was replaced by a world of kindness, love, compassion, and joy. In short, when I changed my inner world from one of anger to one of love, the world outside of me adjusted accordingly. The same thing happens at the macro level. When enough of us realize there is no easy button because, as A Course in Miracles says in chapter 31, all the roads outside of us lead to disappointment, nothingness, and death, and we dedicate ourselves to the hard work of recreating our inner world, then we will ultimately change and thus save the world around us. I mean, you may say I'm a dreamer, but I assure you I'm not the only one. I have arrived at this point by doing exactly what A Course says each of us can do, which is to try all of the paths that the world offers us in pursuit of that easy button. But eventually we all realize they are but one, and every single one of them ends in disappointment, nothingness, and death. A Course tells us when we're tired of treading the same hopeless roads out there, we must go beyond it. The lesson is not discovering that there is no choice at all in this physical world. The lesson, A Course says, is to go beyond that realization and learn what all of this is for. It is for the purpose of realizing that this world teaches us that we are all in this together. We can have no interest apart from the interests of anyone else. The politics of this world keeps us choosing sides. What's best for me? Your interest be damned. A Course teaches us that we must be concerned about what is in the best interest of all of us. And if we are the ones who can see that this is the lesson, then we must be the sum of us who has a responsibility to work for the good of all of us. A Course tells us the lesson's purpose is to teach you what your holy sibling loses, you have lost, and what they gain is given you. Do you want safety and security? Make sure we all have it, and it's given to you. Do you want everyone fed, clothed, and housed? Make sure we all have it, and it is given to you. Do you want to have the opportunity to prosper and pursue your dreams and desires? Make sure we all have that opportunity, and it is given to you. Whatever it is you want for yourself, you must want it for the world, or you will never find it. Oh yeah, you may get the money. You might get all the money in the world, all the fame in the world, or all the power and prestige in the world, but it's all fleeting and impermanent. If you want peace, if you want joy, if you want love that is never-ending and unconditional, you must give it to everyone you meet, everyone you think of, everyone you love, and maybe especially everyone you hate. Only then is it also given to you. This is not just about what you can get in the outside world. That all falls away in time. The truth is this: until we can give everyone around us, friend and foe alike, the joy, peace, love, security, compassion, and generosity that we want, we will never truly receive it. And the world around us will reflect our selfishness. There is no easy button here. Not for anyone on any political side. There never will be in the outside world. But when we commit to do the hard work of pulling up the roots of our own selfishness, greed, separation, and hatred from within our own heart and mind, and plant instead the seeds of generosity, open-heartedness, unity, and love, and we share the fruit of that labor with those around us, we will be given all we think is missing in this world. And in that moment, we will find that the easy button only exists when we can all press it together. Thanks so much for listening to the Motley Mystic Podcast. I invite you to click on the link in the show notes and leave a comment on this article. If you enjoy this podcast and the Motley Mystic Substack, please share it with your friends so they can subscribe. The Substack is always free. And if you want to know more about me, you can go to CandaceChallew.com. That's Candace, C-A-N-D-A-C-E, and CHELLEW.com. There you'll find a link to my music and my book, Bulletproof Faith, a spiritual survival guide for gay and lesbian Christians. Thanks so much for listening. I'll leave you with this quote from A Course in Miracles, chapter 31. Our holy siblings neither lead nor follow, but walk beside us on the selfsame road. They are like us, as near or far away from what we want as we will let them be. We make no gains they do not make with us, and we fall back if they do not advance. Take not their hand in anger, but in love, for in their progress do you count your own. Oh yeah.